Good evening, everyone. Good evening. All right. My name is Kareem Adin Hassan, and I will be the moderator for tonight's session, Meet the Democratic Primary Candidates, at this event here tonight. And on behalf of a lot of our sponsors, who I'll mention in a minute, I want to thank you all for coming out of your busy schedules tonight to be here. Okay. One of the things I just want to say briefly is that I live in Schenectady County. I am also a member of the NAACP, and when asked to do this, I consented, and I'm glad to be here. But I have no axes or anything to grind in this, and I'm hopeful to hear from all the candidates to find out who best can represent Albany. We need leadership here as well. Okay, let's start off by first talking about some of our sponsors today. The sponsors of tonight's event are the Albany branch of the NAACP. We also have the League of Women Voters of Albany County. We have 100 Black Men of the Capital Region. We have the Council of Albany Neighborhood Associations, or formerly, I always knew them as CANA, and the Capital Area Council of Churches, a village, also the Delaware Area Neighborhood Association, and the Second Avenue Neighborhood Association. And on behalf of our sponsors, we thank you. Also want to say quick thanks to our president of our NAACP, Mr. Bernard Bryant, for putting this event together, and his wife, Ms. LaSone Garland Bryant, for helping with this event as well. And we'd also want to thank Barbara Frankel with the League of Women Voters. Is Barbara, I just saw her a minute ago, maybe she's out in the back. Thank you for helping me get all of these things together. Wanted now to introduce someone who really doesn't need any introduction, Miss Ann Pope, our regional director, the NAACP Northeast region of New York State. And we ask you to come forward and give us some brief remarks before we meet the candidates.
I don't take any chances after January 12th. I need a helping hand. Good evening.
Good evening.
And welcome to tonight's forum. Believe it or not, we are making history tonight. 4 years ago, some of us entered into a lawsuit against Albany County and sued to get a 5th majority minority district. And so tonight, you will hear from individuals who want to lead or represent in that district. I was a lead plaintiff, and I can tell you that when I went into the lawsuit, I looked forward to increasing the numbers of minorities in Albany County legislature. That's what the NAACP is about, is increase. That's what the Voting Rights Act is about. It's about increase and empowerment. And so I looked forward to having a strong, intelligent, bright, up on the issues, minority, African American, Hispanic to lead that district. And so tonight I am so happy to have an opportunity to hear and see what they are going to do. And I said we were about increase, and yet during this year we found ourselves in the midst of a movement to decrease the numbers of minorities in the legislative district, and I was not happy at all about that. There's a gospel song that says, "You can't have my increase." That's war. And so we say you cannot have our increase. We won through the Voting Rights Act with a judge who knew the rules, and we got the victory. And let's give all of the plaintiffs, the lawyers, the judges a hand for that. Because tonight we are the better for that. Since 1991, I have been on the battlefield to get new districts, and I won't stop until my time is up, because we have been denied so much throughout my lifetime, and I believe that we are entitled to something. So we're going to be people of entitlement and privilege from now on. I want to mention that the NAACP is on a journey to justice that started in the beginning of August, and they are now in North Carolina. They're marching every day. They were in South Carolina yesterday. They moved to North Carolina today. They will move on to Richmond, Virginia, and on September 16, they will be in Washington, D.C. And I would like to invite you to go down and join them. You can meet them at any leg of the journal and march with them. On September 16, which I believe is a Wednesday, we will go down, we will join them, we will go in and meet with the legislators, the congressmen, the senators, etc., and tell them what we want. It's about time that we did that. We've got to say what we want, what we are entitled to. And so stay tuned and keep in touch with me, because I would like to take a busload of people down. The buses are 59 passengers, so we need 58 people to get on the buses, and I might possibly be able to get a decent rate for us. We would leave in the middle of the night and come back in the middle of the night, right? We'll do our business. But welcome here, and I want you to know that on Monday, August 31, there will be another candidates forum at the 100 Black Men's headquarters on Clinton Avenue. Stay tuned, and you will get more information. That will start at 7:30. We're going to bring that into our community, and we invite you to come down and share again. But let's open our ears and our eyes and listen and watch their body language and see how they're going to do tonight. Thank you. I'm not old, I just need it.
That's all right. That's okay. You're not the only one. Okay. Before I go over the ground rules of tonight's program, we have a lot of dignitaries here tonight, and what I'd like to do is to ask them all as a group, if you can, to please stand and be acknowledged. Our dignitaries. Okay. Thank you. Okay, let's go over our rules tonight. Our candidate rules are as follows. All opening statements are going to be 5 minutes each. Answer to questions are 2 minutes, and closing remarks are 2 minutes each, and they will be timed. The timer will sit in the front. We have our timers here helping us out. They're sitting in the front in full view of the candidates. They'll warn them on the remaining time and notify them when time is running out. We will choose lots in terms of candidate order for everything, including opening statements and closing remarks. Each candidate will have the opportunity to respond to each question, and then we'll rotate the order. Audience questions. The audience will receive blank cards, which they have, and the cards have been submitted up front. And we have volunteers in the back who select the best suited, best submitted questions and organize the topics. And then after that, the questions are summarized so we can go from there. And all the questions then are then passed on to me, the moderator. The general rules tonight are as follows. There are no campaign signs, T-shirts, or demonstrations for or against any candidate. They're just not allowed here tonight. We ask everybody to turn your cell phones off and put them on vibrate. Only approved media can record or photograph during this forum, and candidates can distribute campaign literature after closing statements. And the candidates are welcome to remain after the program to meet and greet the voters. Okay, can we all agree on these rules tonight? Okay, thank you. And we just want to remind you for tomorrow, there is also a program at 7 o'clock to 8:30 at the First Unitarian Society here again. And we will have our candidates for the office of Albany County Executive. Okay, okay, Ms. Holmes. Okay, okay. As far as our opening statements go, we'll just pick and we'll start, let's see, we'll start with Ms. McKnight as an opening statement.
Thank you, and good evening again, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here. No, it isn't, because I'm supposed to be at public hearing on the floor at the county courthouse, and I never miss meetings and I'm never late. But those who don't know me, I am Lucille McKnight. I'm the candidate for the 1st Legislative District and the incumbent. I've been elected since 1992 to serve the southern end of the city of Albany and Albany County. It's been indeed a pleasure to represent this class of folk, and I'm looking forward to my re-election coming up in January. Well, in November, to be sworn in January. I'm honored to say I have worked alongside of the county chairman of Albany County government, who has been a strong supporter of me and my style of governing for decades. That's Ms. Carolyn McLaughlin. I am honored to continue to serve her and glad to know that she's in this audience with us today. That gives me a sense of support and pride to know that we sisters, we stick together. That's important to me. I'm a coal miner's daughter born in West Virginia, in Fayette County. My father was a member of the United Mine Workers of America. I have 11 brothers and sisters, strong family ties, 7 nieces and nephews. When you see our family reunion, you say, oh, did the whole neighborhood turn out? Just, no, that's just my family, you know. But my nieces, nephews, and all are very close to me here in this town. My son, who's home in Guilderland with my 2 grandkids, lovely, lovely people. And they're biracial kids too, but I love them even more. But we have to get used to understanding the biracial factor. There was a big discussion when we had the Voting Rights Act. They talked about counting them and not counting them. Are they non-Hispanic, or are they white, or are they black? You know, that's far from me to even have to understand and comprehend. The courts have made the final decision. Our Judge Khan, he deliberated so hard on this Voting Rights Act. This is just my testimony. I was on that United States federal court bench for 2 days, being cross-examined and questioned, people trying to identify and try to define blackness. And the judge says, well, we want to have black and brown representatives for these majority-minority districts in Albany City, Albany County, and they're in the lower wards. And you see that's where the numbers are focused on, the lower wards. Many people don't understand what county government does. But it's kind of simple throughout the state. It's described in our local Bible here. The local government tells us what to do. We're mandated to do this, to do that, children's services, family services. They never give us enough money to do it. So we've broken up into committee structures where we have to go in and deliberate and decide which one stays, which ones are cut, and hopefully the county executive will approve our decisions. The legislators make the laws in this county, and the county executive signs on. So you have to get those basic fundamental principles inside of us so we'll know and understand what we are here for. What does a county legislator want? Everybody wants to know. What do you do? Well, we're that level of government between the state and the cities. The cities, and we have 16 cities, towns, and villages in Albany County. Not just the city of Albany, the one that Ms. McLaughlin serves as president in, but we have many others. We got Cohoes and Waterbury and Queenwood, Ravine, and Selkirk, the hill towns, all of those. But we levy the taxes for each and every one of those districts. That's what we do. We're not social workers and caseworkers. We are lawmakers. We make laws that governs everybody's lives, not just blacks and browns, all people from cradle to grave. We even put your way in a pine box if you can't afford it. That's something we do on county government level. But I want you to understand what it's like to serve since 1992. That's a lot of different governing styles that I have witnessed. A lot of people have come through there, but I still stand. I'm in seat number 1. You will never hardly come into that county courtroom unless you see me sitting at my seat on time and ready to do your governing. I do that. I chair committees. Last night I chaired the Civic Center Committee. We're going to put a $17 million front on the Civic Center building. I think we only paid $20 million for the whole building. That's what we do. We do brownfield cleanups. We do solid waste. We do everything that comes up with the umbrella of a city, county government. I think that's a city truck, isn't it, Carolyn? That's not a county vehicle out there. But whatever it takes to do to get the job done, we do it. And if we don't do it, we find out who can do it. Whether it's the state, the federal government, or sometime in partnership, we're going to get the job done. And I look forward to coming on board and being elected again to serve in my vital role. And she told me I have to stop. Oh, I'm so sorry. But anyway, talk to me afterwards. Okay, thank you.
Okay. This is yours. Yeah. Thank you, Ms. McKnight. Okay. Our next candidate for the Legislative 1st District is Carmen Rao. You're welcome.
Hi. Thank you all for being here, and thanks to all the co-sponsoring organizations for hosting the forum. I'm Carmen Rao, and I'm running for Albany County Legislature in the new 1st District. For those of you who don't know the 1st District, it includes a portion of Albany's South End, one of the poorest communities in the county, and the upper part of 2nd Avenue and adjoining streets, which is incredibly diverse and includes a large working class element. Given that, I could not have chosen a district that I am better suited to represent if I'd drawn the lines myself. Just to give you a sense of where I come from, I want to tell you a little story. I grew up in a company town near the border of Mexico and southern Arizona. The company owned our homes, our jobs, and the only grocery store in town. In 1983, Phelps Dodge Corporation, the owner of the copper mine where my dad and most of my family worked, set out to bust the union. After a long strike, they succeeded. The result was devastating for the entire town. Years later, when talking with my mother about my social justice work, I was curious to know what she thought. She said to me, "Mija, I was so naive. I thought we had rights." She told me that what she learned from the strike was that government is controlled by the rich, the powerful corporations, not the people. The funny thing is that, well, to some extent she was right. What I took away from that strike and the many years of labor management struggles during my youth was a little bit different. I learned that together we're powerful and divided we're weak. The company had busted the union not just because they had rich and powerful government allies. They busted the unions because friends and family crossed the picket lines. Had we stuck together, like we had through so many struggles in the past, we would have won another battle. What I learned was that the strength of community connections and relationships is the real measure of power. My social justice work, values, and politics were shaped largely by these experiences. When I say that this district could not be better suited for me if I had drawn the lines myself, I mean that my experiences, my history, and my social justice work fit cleanly within the range of experiences and concerns of this very diverse constituency. I'm a Mexican-American, raised in a blue-collar family by a mother who was still required to sit in the back of the classroom in elementary school because she was brown. I left my rural desert town to embark on a terrifying but exciting journey to enter the world of the privileged and elite inside the ivy-covered walls of Harvard University. I bring with me to this district my mother's stories of poverty and discrimination, my family's labor struggles, my own life experiences as an outsider in an elitist world, and as an LGBT, anti-racist, and anti-poverty activist and advocate. I physically embody the diversity of this district in a way that few others can. If you ever wonder where I stand on an issue, simply ask whether or not what is proposed is good for those who are most vulnerable. It's the canary in a coal mine idea. Unfortunately, we, many of the people in districts like the first, are the canaries. If it isn't good for people with disabilities, for women, for people of color, for LGBT folks, for poor people, for working families, then it isn't good for anybody. And the converse is true. If it's good for all of these, then it's good for everyone. My task in this race is not to curry favor with political, financial, or cultural elites, or those who do their bidding. It's to keep doing this work I've been doing all my life, making a space for the voices of many, not just a few, especially those who have been silenced and divided, to be heard. And based on the responses that I've gotten from the hundreds of people I've spoken to in my district, it is a task that has long needed doing. It's time to upend a county government that has become stagnant and dysfunctional. What this campaign represents is just the beginning of a tide of newcomers who will slowly but surely remove power from those who are mostly interested in serving themselves and bring it back to the community for the benefit of everyone. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Carmen Rao, and also Ms. Lucille McKnight. We will now start with some questions that were received from the audience. The first question will go to Ms. Rao. And the question is as follows. What role do you see leadership plays in Albany's future? Press it. Press.
Okay. All right. No, I'm good. All right. All right. I think that the idea that elected officials, particularly in county government legislators, the idea that we are there to pass laws, which obviously is one of the jobs of legislators, is sort of a limited view of what leadership is. I think that what we need to be doing as elected officials is exercising what I think of as unofficial power. That power is the power of relationships. I think, Ms. McKnight actually referred to it when she talked about working in partnership with the city, with Carolyn McLaughlin and others at the state and federal levels. I think that form of leadership is way more powerful than the actual passing of laws, particularly given that county government right now, it doesn't matter how many laws they pass. If you can find them on the books, I'd love to see them, okay? You know right now, in order to find a law that's been passed by Albany County government, by the legislature, you actually have to go through the meeting minutes. They are not codified. That is a huge problem. It is not transparent. It is not open to the public. There is no way for us, unless we foil it, to get that kind of information. So unofficial power, unofficial leadership, and creativity in using that. I think that that's how I see leadership as an elected official. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Rao. Our next question for Ms. McKnight. And I'm just drawing these questions out of random. There's not any specific order or anything. It says here, the question is, how do you see the county legislators' role in the Black Lives Matter movement?
I think that is a huge national issue that's going on right now. Our legislators have been listening to it and been a part of some of the activities around going to the marches and things like that. And we know Black Lives Matter. We address lives of minorities all the time, majority minorities. I wrote the first affirmative action policy in 1993. And right after that, we created the first African American History Month in the 90s here in Albany. So Albany is slow to come around to things. I indicated to the pastor tonight, Albany County is almost too conservative. We have to get more down with the people, meet the people where the issues are, and be able to articulate where we're going to go with this and how we're going to sell the idea to our governing body.
Thank you. And I'm going to ask you a follow-up question. This is similar to the question I asked Ms. Rao. What role do you see leadership plays in Albany's future?
I see us having a huge role on the county level. All of our departments that we have in the county are under, I guess, committee structures. And I can see us as African Americans being leaderships in that body called Albany County Government. We haven't had that many, and I'm looking forward to maybe taking the seat of leadership in county government. I would be the first. And I really think I would be instrumental in making things happen to not only our people, but all people.
Thank you. And Ms. Rao, I'll follow up with the same question I asked Ms. McKnight. How do you see the county legislators' role in the Black Lives Matter movement?
Okay. Technology, if it's not a cell phone, I don't know how to use it. I think that's actually it's interesting because that's not a question that I've gotten at the doors. So I see that government's role in the Black Lives Matter movement is, it should be a responsive one. I've seen, I think during, for example, during Occupy, there were some city council people who were, during that movement, there were city council people who were very clear and present and they showed support. And I think that we should be seeing some of our county legislators, all of them would be great, actually down on the ground with the folks, with the people. It would be nice to see them out at some of the protests and some of the organizing that's being done. There's lots of young people who are involved in that. It would be a great way for, I think, what I see now is a county government that is very disengaged with young people, never mind, the rest of the grassroots folks. It would be a great way for them to actually see what people are talking about. I haven't seen very many. I think probably some of the city council people I've seen, but otherwise, Black Lives Matter activist organizing activities have been solely populated by people in the community and not by our legislators at all. So if it were me, I'd be out there with folks who are doing the organizing work. I think it's important to do.
Okay, let's start this time again with Ms. Rao on one other question, an open-ended question. What do you know about the needs or services that your constituents may need? For instance, social services, health insurance, Medicaid, or child care, to name a few.
What do I know about them? In the first district, I think we are seeing, when I talk to people at the doors, what I hear is basically, I don't think there's a person that I have spoken to that doesn't have some kind of contact with social services, whether it be, senior services, Medicaid, Medicare, disability services, food stamps, welfare, child care subsidies, the whole range. And that's actually a great entry point because I think, as Ms. McKnight pointed out, some people don't really understand what county government does. I mean, they say, county government, what does that do? What do county legislators do? And when you start to talk to people about, well, what is it that what happens when you need child care? What happens when you need, medical services? It touches everybody's lives. I don't know that that's true for other areas in the county, but I know in the first district, from the top of 2nd Avenue to the bottom of 2nd Avenue, the needs are vast, And the contact with county government, particularly social services, is very, very intense and comprehensive. So, that's all.
And Ms. McKnight, the same question. What do you know about the needs services that your constituents may need? It's social services, health insurance, Medicaid, child care, to name a few.
Well, I served as Albany County's first African-American commissioner of the Department of Social Services, I think close to a decade. I am very familiar with all the service provisions that we provide. We are mandated by the state to make sure most of them are performed. We often don't have enough money to do it. But we understand that 162 Washington Avenue is a building that I helped purchase from the Department of State. It serves as our social service office right today. The health department at 175 Green Street, I serve on the board of directors along with the health committee who write all the programs for early intervention and flu shots, any kind of influenza or any other kind of medical conditions. Come right out of the south end of Albany. I'm busy working on the elder care for the nursing home at Albany County, nursing home near the airport out on Shaker Road. I've served on that board of elder care and I still presently am on it. We were there to write the contract to not privatize Albany County Nursing Home. I sit on that committee. I think we could do more, but I know we're doing a lot, especially with the homelessness issue. The homeless shelter, we have the largest homeless shelter in the region on South Pearl Street in the city of Albany called the Albany City Mission. And I am always receiving calls to try to offer services for anybody at my home. My number's been listed in the book for all the 30 years that I've served. I have a home office and my number is also on all of my material that I can get direct services from the constituency. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, we'll start with Ms. McKnight with the next question. Are you in favor of the proposed county charter amendment? If so, why or why not?
Yes, I voted for the proposed charter of Albany County government, along with the other 24 members of my body, and it passed. It will go into place and will be law, county law. Charters are funny. I remember signing another charter in 1993 under Mike Hoblock. I think it was amended at least 10 times through the period, and charters can be amended. No matter which way it signs and goes out, it's guaranteed it's going to be amended. And it'll go into effect in 2020 or 2023. So I do support the charter because I voted for it. Mm-hmm.
Ms. Rao, same question. Are you in favor of the proposed county charter amendment? If so, why or why not?
Well, it depends on what part you're talking about, I guess. If you're talking about the reduction of the legislature, that portion of the charter amendment, I mean, there's a lot of pieces being amended in that charter. So I would have to say, I understand that charters need to be amended. There are definitely changes that need to be made. I think the issue specifically with the portion around reduction of the legislature is the process. In the same way that the reapportionment process was problematic and continues to be problematic, we've got decades of history around that indicate that we don't have enough transparency, we don't have enough independent folks, community people who are actually involved in the process of redistricting, whereas you have legislators and politicians and people have their fingers up in every piece of that. And if that's what the process looks like, then no, I'm not in favor of amending the charter, not the way that it currently stands. I think that the shenanigans that happen around that it's way, unless the process can be changed so it's transparent, it's independent, and it's guaranteed to be set outside the current political process that dominates the way that it ends up turning out. No, I'm not in favor of it.
Okay, let's shift our questions to community. It says, please share your community strength in seeking this position. And let's start with Ms. Rao on that.
Okay. You're going to tell me when I'm not holding this up here, right? Everybody's going to, the peanut gallery, like I'm going to sing. I think my community strengths, I've worked in nonprofits all my life. That's what I do. I graduated from law school and I went straight from there to work for Farm Worker Legal Services, working with migrant workers in the fields in Ulster County, Orange County, and Ulster County. After that, I moved up to Albany and worked for the Environmental Planning Lobby, and then for the Social Justice Center, and then for In Our Own Voices, helping to found the first LGBT people of color organization in the region, one of only a handful. We actually pulled in probably the first, $500,000 that had ever come to LGBT people of color specifically. There had been LGBT money before, but not money specifically serving the needs of LGBT people of color. So that experience, and then from there I went on to work for the Red Cross, where I learned a little bit about communications and disasters, and that was fun. I know how to work with a wide range of people, and I've heard what needs are from the community themselves on a daily basis for the last 30 years. And all this is a matter of changing from a nonprofit human services role into a government advocacy role. We have to be at the table, not just at the bottom of the $1 million staircase, and that's what I'm here for. So.
Thank you, Ms. Rao. Ms. McKnight, same question. May you please share your community strengths in seeking this position?
I've got many. I've worked on neighborhood associations. I've created I call them pageants, but it was a way to create self-esteem and pride and confidence in young teenage girls. I work with various organizations in my community to do neighborhood cleanups, the neighborhood associations in public housing. We recently spent 25 meetings down at the Asbury Prentice homes, discovering issues that came about because of the crude oil scare and the black trains down in our neighborhood near the Port of Albany. And we did meetings about asthma and air quality in our neighborhood. I fought hard for elimination of an asphalt plant that was they were trying to locate in the South End decades ago, and we were able to beat that from the city, but they came back now with the crude oil, so they're talking about cooking up crude oil, bacon crude oil in Albany South End, and that's something we cannot tolerate either. These multi-billion-dollar agencies don't care about the small and low-income and middle-income families. So we have to be out there to advocate for them at all of these meetings, and I do appear at most of them for that purpose.
Thank you. Next question deals with issues of disabled and senior homeowners. It says, many senior homeowners and disabled homeowners live in your district. How do you plan to engage these populations and make them aware that they're eligible for Albany City services without shame or guilt? And I'll start with you, Ms. McKnight.
We don't tolerate shame and guilt when you talked about our seniors and myself. Actually, I have a handicap disability myself, so I have been way out in the front of trying to provide services through the ADA and other avenues in our city of Albany. I make sure I get them all registered to vote, and so they can participate in the voting process. I've been working closely with the Meals on Wheels to make sure that they sign up to get fresh food delivered to their home. We recently had a new kitchen built down near the Mansion neighborhood in the South End of Albany. I've toured it already. I'm vigilantly trying to get more people involved and making sure they have a nutritional, healthy diet delivered to their house with doctor's orders. So I'm working hard on that aspect right now. So I'm always available to help out where I can with my senior people.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. McKnight. Ms. Rao, the same question, and I'll repeat the question. Many senior homeowners and disabled homeowners live in your district. How do you plan to engage these populations and make them aware so they can apply for services, city services, without shame or guilt?
Well, I think that there are any number of nonprofit organizations that I'm already connected with who do some significant work around that. there are also advocates who live in the district that I've spoken to. Very specifically, I went to the door of a woman just about a week ago over on Leadell, I think it was, or Twiller maybe, one of those two streets, and she works with the American Association for the Blind as an advocate. And one of the things that she was very concerned about was beyond, some of the things that we all probably are familiar with, is, the sidewalks, again, city issues, but the kinds of things that I think county officials could use their sort of influence, their informal influence to help move along. Sidewalk problems for people with visual impairments, but also, she really would have liked to seen some response from Albany County, specifically the Board of Elections, where she approached, and her organization approached the Board of Elections on having more education for the poll workers so that they could have better access to vote. This was met with a dismissal. So if it were up to me, I'd be advocating with the county exec, hopefully working with him and the people at the Board of Elections to try to get those poll workers trained so that the folks who are visually impaired would not be saying, I don't want to be going in there and having them, you need to use one of those machines over there. That's one of the ways that we have to eliminate shame. There needs to be a different way of dealing with that. There was an opportunity, it was missed, and I think this is where we fall down as a county government and probably at the city level as well, although that hasn't come up. So, thanks.
Okay, the next question we'll start with Ms. Rao. How can the county IDA and tax credit programs be better explained and the guidelines enforced for residents?
Them to me. I tried to do my homework on this one, and I looked at it and I said, oh my God, it's just another example of a body that is not accountable to anybody. It is completely unclear, completely inaccessible to ordinary people. I read articles on how there were 40 nonprofits that were given funding to help increase jobs. Nothing posted as of, I think, April of this year about what the progress was. Maybe it was 2014, actually. I'm looking over there because somebody else read this article with me. Was it 2014 when it was last updated? So we have they could start by actually providing information to the public about what they do and giving actual numbers about how many jobs they created, how the money was spent, and being accountable to us as opposed to being independent and not accessible to any of us. So that's my thinking.
And as a wrap up to this question, which will be our final question, same question to you, Ms. McKnight. How can the county IDA and tax credit programs be better explained and the guidelines enforced for residents?
That's true. Albany County does have its own IDA, I think the city has one also. Applications are made at 112 State Street. Gary Demolowitz is our chairman of the IDA. If you have a plan or an idea to put in a small business and want to seek money, that's where the information goes to the IDA chair at 112 State Street. I think it's on the 7th floor. And I think their meetings are open to the public if you choose to find out when they are you want to go. And there are shortcomings when it comes to hiring people in the working class for a lot of these positions in these approved IDA projects, whether in Guilderland, Bethlehem, even some in the city of Albany. We have to do better about hiring our minority people and minority contractors on all these new developments, whether they're IDA funded or any fund or funding monies that come through. We have to be more vigilant. Thank you, sir.
Thank you both. I'm going to open now for our closing remarks, and I'm going to continue with my same back and forth as I've been doing. So since, Ms. McKnight, you answered the last question, let's give you the first shot at the closing remarks.
Again, I just want to thank this for happening. It's the first time I've ever participated in a joint forum like this, especially since we created the new Voting Rights Act and all of this. And this is important. This is some real important stuff to our people. Let's be mindful of why we're here and how we got here. We must continue to be vigilant of our government programs. Don't just come for a forum. And the turnout is awful, as far as I'm concerned. When you're talking about 3 legislative districts, this room should be packed with people, especially a lot of people of blacks and browns, you know. And I'm so happy to see that Ms. Pope has been a vigilant warrior for us for 30 years. She has to fight my government. You think I feel good about the fact that my government is getting sued again? I had to be a witness in the entire process. You think I felt good about that? I sat there tearful, taking questions from a United States federal judge to talk about how sad this is. This coal miner's daughter from West Virginia didn't come all the way to the state of New York, the seat of government, to have to continue to be put down and turned down and not be included in things. This government is our people. Just take it and run it and lead it and enjoy it. We can make things happen for the little guy. We can make them know that this is theirs. When I had a teen pageant, the girls didn't think, oh, this can't be ours. We never had anything like this. I said, this is yours, participate. Ms. Stokes' daughter was the first queen in my city under that pageant. And you see, things can happen if we all just stick together and believe in the process and support the people, the principles in the head. Ms. Pope and I was below zero. We're coming out of the federal building, trying to look cute and dapper, but yet and still we got on that stance and we put all those trappings aside because we were there for serious business. We were doing the people's work under oath. We shall not lie today. We will tell the truth, and I will tell you the truth. When I'm reelected as the leader of the 1st District, I will be back here and we'll talk again. Thank you for having me, and I'll see you at the polling place.
Thank you. And Ms. Rao, closing remarks.
I'm being coached to speak into the mic. Okay. Well, you know, when I went to a Wellstone training for campaigning, and one of the things that they advised me of, I don't remember a darn thing about it. I was there for 3 days, and I don't think I remember anything. But the one thing that stuck was they said, commit to the paper, because I can't do anything without a piece of paper in front of me. I forget. So, on that note, what I am going to say is that I entered into this campaign originally believing that I was going to be running for a seat that was empty. I was in the 6th district, and I got districted into the 1st district with Ms. McKnight, somebody who I have a great deal of respect for because she has been in a very ugly environment at the county legislature for many decades. And so I appreciate you and your work. But I spoke with a lot of the people that I work with, and the people I work with are almost entirely, not entirely, but almost entirely, majority young women of color, many of whom are unaffiliated or unregistered as voters. And they're that way because they believe that this system is rigged. And I can't disagree with them. But I want them to have hope. I wanted them to believe that we could make it different. That if they participated, that if they walked with me, that on the local level, we could take the seats and we could make county government look different. And maybe if we could do that, we could make state government look different and federal government look different. And that all of it could stop being rigged because we could win. And they agreed. And that's what my campaign is made up of. A lot of young women of color, some old school folks who have never lost the faith, and we're back, and we're trying to do something different. And so that's what I'm here for. Thank you for your time.
Residents of Albany County, here are our candidates for the Albany County Legislators' 1st District.